Spalding Gray is somebody who does what I do. He's a performance artist. But his style of performance art is way different than mine. Unlike me, who's doing a little bit of video clips, a little bit of poetry, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of dressing up and mixing it up like crazily, Spalding Gray's thing is telling stories. Unlike me, who's moving all around the theater and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, he basically sits at a table like this with his binder or notebook and a glass of water and tells stories from his life. And boy, does he know how to do that. He can just take any experience of his life and milk so much humanity out of it, so much humor out of it. And I'm going to see all his shows. I love the guy's performances. Swimming to Cambodia, Grey's Anatomy just come to my head of two of them. They're always in the city, but then his show, most recent, was not in the city, it was in Queens, and it was a different kind of show. It's called Interviewing the Audience. And I was like, that's different. And you know what? I do audience participation stuff every day of my life. I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm going to definitely learn something from it. So I can't wait to get there, and you would think this practically in my backyard here at the Queens Theater at Flushing Meadows Park, but the traffic was unbearable, and I get there late, and there's nobody in the lobby but Spalding Gray. And he's getting up from a table, and he's gathering up his index cards. I'm gathering probably people from the show. There's going to be in the show with him. And he threw me. He really looked frightening. I was like, I love this guy. I love his energy. I love so much about him. But up close, my God, I hate to use the word negative. But man, it was just pouring out, and I was really thrown by it. So I was thinking of probably, maybe I could still get in the show. Let me ask him, like, hey, is it not too late? I can get in here? And but I had to pee. It looked like he was kind of finished, and to be honest with you, I probably let the negative vibe keep me from doing that. So anyway, what happens, the show starts. And he comes out on stage, and he tells all of us about how he'd been on vacation in Ireland, in the rural areas of Ireland, and was involved in a horrible car crash. And it had disabled him and injured him in his psyche and his body, and it was a real nightmare. And I said, oh, that explains the vibe I'm catching. But as the night progresses and people come up from the audience onto the stage to be with him, it becomes real clear just how much pain he's in. And it also became real clear that all of those people coming up on the stage were so caught up in the giddiness of like, oh my God, I'm up on stage with Spalding Gray, a celebrity, missing what was going on for him. And there was a few times where the words are like rising up within me and almost coming out of my mouth. Spalding, we don't got to do this. We don't need to be entertained tonight. It's clear that you're in a lot of pain. You're not okay. Can we be here for you tonight? What do you think? I kept almost saying it, but I began to realize my filter kicked in and said, wait, this is a professional performer. There are probably contractual arrangements here, and I'm the only one that maybe feels this way. And the other people are like, shut up, pal. We want our money's worth here tonight. So I didn't say anything. And I also didn't stay for the rest of the show. I got up and I left. Shortly after that night, Spalding Gray disappeared. The people who knew him, there were a lot of people who didn't give up hope. They thought that maybe he was working on a new show with some people about his trip to Ireland. It's called Life Interrupted. And they thought that, like, okay, maybe he's going on some kind of one of his many adventures. The last time he was spotted was on the Staten Island ferry. A man had spotted him there. In fact, Spalding had asked this guy, why is the back half of this boat, why do you think it's blocked off? The man recounted about how he felt like, wow, this is why I live in New York City. To be able to run into somebody like Spalding Gray on the Staten Island ferry. How cool is that? And he was going to ask Spalding about, so what are you working on next? But he said, I wanted to respect his privacy. At night, Spalding had taken his 2 little boys out to the movies. He took them to see a film called The Big Fish. It's a story about a father who has a wild imagination and a son who is just the facts only, please. And they clashed all their lives, okay? But what happened was the father had lived larger than life. Whenever an opportunity came up and there was a chance for a bold decision, he took it. Because he had been given as a child a vision about how he would die. And if that thing he had to face wasn't going to kill him, he had no fear. He just jumped right in and did it. And therefore, he had a pretty amazing life. And so, but now it's the end of his life, and he can't remember how his life is supposed to end. Or so he tells his son. And he invites his son to tell the story of how his life ends. And the son tells how, he scoops up his father from the hospital bed, and they escape from the hospital, and they bring him along this parade route of all the larger-than-life characters that have inhabited his father's life. And they're all clapping and cheering him on and everything, and it's the most happy, glorious time. And then he comes up to the river's edge, and he places his father in the river, and he becomes the big fish and swims off into eternity. That's the movie he took his kids to see, brought them home, and then left. He called them to say that he loved them, and nobody heard from him again. Months later, his body was found in the East River. And there began to be a lot came out from that. A lot of people, things came out like that. He always talked about taking his life, that he never recuperated from his mother's suicide, that he was really tormented. He lived in North Haven on Long Island on Lost at Sea Turnpike, and how it had spooked him. And that he missed the house he had before that, and all this stuff was building up. And the article that really, really got to me the most was the one that started, they hoped that Spalding Gray would pop up, but I knew he wouldn't because I killed him. The man recounted about how somewhere in between when I saw him last perform and when he disappeared, this guy had run into Spalding Gray at a cocktail party. And Spalding Gray talked to him. He opened up to him about his life. Cried to a stranger about how he couldn't take putting on a happy face for his little boys anymore. How he just was really feeling attacked on a spiritual level from unseen entities. He was really in a living hell. And this guy had received all that from him. And the guy was telling how he's sure he wasn't the only one that maybe this man had opened up to. That there were many people, but they all did what he did. He said, when if a famous person, a celebrity, is in deep pain, the average person, the audience member, the person who's a nobody, will do nothing to help them. Not because they're evil, but because they think really there's somebody else to take care of this. There's got to be somebody closer to him or her, whoever this famous celebrity would be, that can take care of this. They don't need me, the stranger, to take care of this. And he said that was probably the case for a lot of people with Spalding Gray. Me, I also killed Spalding Gray. Had I gotten over the negative vibe, now listen, I know enough to know that when someone takes their life, the survivors are never, ever to blame themselves. Somebody makes that decision, there's almost never anything you can do to stop them. I know that, but yet I know in that night when I was with him, if I would have not let his negative vibe get to me, and I had gone up to him and said, hey, can I be in your show? Maybe I could have been up on the stage and given him a chance to process something. Maybe if I had gotten over my inhibitions of speaking out in front of a whole crowd that probably wasn't in agreement with me, hey, it's okay. You don't need to perform. You've been there for us before. Let's be there for you tonight. Maybe it would have made a difference. Maybe it would have made it worse. Maybe it would have felt like an intervention and he might have gone home and done something terrible that very night. I don't know. But I just know that there's so much we can do. The man who wrote that article and said, I killed him, he said, I always believed that where there's life, there's hope. And then this happened. It really knocked him for a loop. And me, well, maybe there's something I can do now. Maybe I've done something already by honoring him, by telling you his story. There's many cultures that have a belief that there is a connection between the worlds, that on the other side that they can give help and assistance to us and that we can give assistance to them. Indigenous peoples engage in helping the souls cross over. Catholics pray for the souls in purgatory at the doorway to heaven. Maybe we can, those who have passed, we can honor them by honoring their art form, tending the gardens that were important to them. Maybe Spalding Gray can enjoy our stories, those who are still alive, and he can appreciate the arts, the artistic expressions that we all have. I know that I'm going to see Spalding Gray again someday. And I hope to thank him, say thanks for everything you gave. I really appreciate everything you gave. And maybe I'll say to him, you know, can I be in your show? Hey, I put you in mine.